Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gen Z Capitalist. Today, we're going to look at this blog article about what are the arguments against Bitcoin, and I will answer each one by one. So, first of all, okay, the first point is the impact on the environment. Yeah, and I guess this point is about Bitcoin mining. Cryptocurrency need a way to achieve agreement on the ledger, and undoubtedly, Bitcoin mining does take energy. And my opinion is twofold, right? Human uses energy all the time. I think, um, nobody say powering your heater with electricity is a waste of energy because it serves a purpose. So Bitcoin's impact on the environment, of course, the Bitcoin network actually uses energy. That's why it prevents counterfeiting. Like you have to perform this calculation and actually, um, solve this puzzle, use energy as a proof of work to show you actually deserve to earn the Bitcoin, which is kind of like gold mining, right? Companies have to put in capital. They're I don't even know how you mine gold, but I suppose they're like heavy machineries and you have to use gasoline and you have to hire workers to like extract the gold, etc. So I think it comes down to what is the what is the value of this technology. So Bitcoin uses energy, but I think it gives freedom to everyone in the world. It gives property rights to everyone in the world. You can build, you can save on top of Bitcoin. So my response to the first argument is yes, it uses energy, but I'm not convinced using energy is a bad thing. If it uses energy to give freedom and property rights to everyone in the world, I think it's actually a very good use of energy. And that's what I think about um, Bitcoin mining. Absence of a use case, very interesting. So, in my opinion, the most important use case of Bitcoin is the stored value. Um, as a medium of exchange, of course, you can trade directly. You can send somebody Bitcoin and maybe you can get service from them that way. And I look at Bitcoin as a substitute for gold. I think it's a base layer, it's a reserve layer of the world economy. But it doesn't mean there won't be other currency. So I'm imagining a world where once companies and nation states starting to acquire Bitcoin currencies, and companies can issue stock, can issue more stocks. In a way, the company stocks is kind of like a currency of a nation. You're issuing more shares of the company. You're potentially diluting uh, the value of shares. But if the in some cases, if the company is growing, there's an argument for that. But the most important use case of Bitcoin is actually a stored value because, of course, the US dollar is still the most powerful currency in the world, but the US government also has a huge national debt, you know, um, and there are forced taxes in the US. It's just not a free system. When you own Bitcoin, if you own one Bitcoin, right, just put in cold storage, it's going to be there forever. You own a fixed amount of supply of Bitcoin forever. So store value is the main use case. You only have to count when we get to a stage where Bitcoin maybe get goes to 100 trillion market cap. Maybe we'll start thinking about it more. But to be honest, even as a Bitcoiner myself, I know, you know, how much one Bitcoin is, but I can't tell you how much the bread cost in Satoshis. Um, I think it's going to take a while, but I wouldn't be surprised eventually, some of the commodities and goods and services will be priced in the native units of Bitcoin. Okay, let's look at the next argument. Yeah, the speculative nature is when people say Bitcoin is a Ponzi, etc., or the greater fool theory, which means um, you have to find somebody who's willing to pay higher for Bitcoin. So, and then there's another argument famously raised by Peter Schiff, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value, whereas gold is a metal, it can be used in industrial use cases. And I'll answer each one. So the greater fool theory, you can say that about any investment, right? You buy the stock, you have to, if you want to make money in the future, you have to sell it at a greater price. So the greater fool theory is actually, um, you know, with the stock, you can get paid dividends, right? The company makes money. Sometimes some companies, if they're a value company, they give dividends to their stock holders. So when you own the stock, you can generate a yield or income that way. So, um, but Bitcoin is actually it's also a monitoring network. It's a technology, which we'll get to very soon. The fiat currency, the money supply keeps increasing. So there will be infinite amount of Chinese yuan, Japanese yen, US dollar, all of these currencies, the government will keep printing more, but there's a fixed supply of Bitcoin. So where does the Ponzi argument breaks is that eventually people might not be looking to sell their Bitcoin. You know, you can essentially, if there are more nodes of Lightning Network, which I do think the Lightning Network and different scalable technology will be more and more popular, you will be able to exchange Bitcoin for goods and services directly. So in that way, you're not necessarily selling that. And the Ponzi nature is actually how come US dollar is not a Ponzi scheme? The banks literally they don't have your dollar. The fractional reserve dollar, when you deposit your money into the bank, they can literally don't loan that out. And when you own Bitcoin, it's the ultimate form of property rights. You can verify on the blockchain, everybody has this data. It is information. Bitcoin is information. If somebody has your private key, they own your Bitcoin. So um, every fiat dollar, every fiat currency is a worse Ponzi scheme because the government can just print infinite amount on a computer. So next, fork and scarcity. Yeah, there's this idea that okay, Bitcoin is not special. I can make my own Bitcoin. I can just fork it and launch a new chain. So why is it is it really scarce? There are 21 million Bitcoin and they're like each Bitcoin is Satoshi. That's like a funny argument Peter Schiff made. So like Bitcoin is not scarce because there are so many Satoshis for each person. That's almost like, dollar is now scarce because, we have 100 times more penny. That argument just doesn't make sense. Ultimately, we're still talking about Bitcoin. But what about this forking? So if you see Bitcoin dominance actually comes back, it's probably it's at the highest level since 2021. And um, one argument, I didn't come up with this, but I think makes a lot of sense is that you can fork chess, but nobody's going to play with you. Bitcoin is a network, right? Most people still think Bitcoin is a scam. What would they think about other cryptocurrency? You know, I don't think Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that has value, but I think it is the only cryptocurrency that will be used as a store of value. For example, Ethereum. Ethereum has value because you can send tokens to other people. Where especially when Ethereum was invented, Bitcoin was too volatile, and it was difficult to use, which is not wrong. But essentially, you need to have valuable tokens on this platform, either Ethereum, Tron, Solana, etc. The value of this network actually depends on the value of the token. So right now, I think stablecoin is actually the most important use case for these technology platforms. But eventually, those things are still linked to the US dollar. If you want to establish a new unit of account, it takes time. It takes time to build consensus around one thing, and the clear winner of the store value is Bitcoin. And as it attracts more capital, network continues to grow. That's why forking and scarcity doesn't really work. And Bitcoin is scarce, right? You can invent a new cryptocurrency, but nobody will hear about it. You can how are you going to advertise to the world? Everybody knows Bitcoin already. And fundamentally, the scaling layer doesn't need to be on the main chain, right? People say, okay, I have this cryptocurrency that's a million times more scalable. A million is still a fixed scalar. How do you know a million times scalability is enough? What if I want to develop a technology that I get paid continuously with Bitcoin? What if I want to make 10 trillion transactions a second? So this whole argument that you can make the base layer infinitely scalable is not true. In fact, maybe you shouldn't want the base layer to be too scalable because for example, Caspa, was advertised as that. But like sometimes the blocks are empty, nobody's using it, etc. More scalability is actually not necessarily always a good thing. And that's my response to forking and scarcity. Anonymity and criminal use. Yes, it is undeniable that there are shady use cases of Bitcoin. But here's my opinion. Ultimately, if you want to commit a crime in the real world, you're still going to leave traces, right? Like you can trade whatever you want. Like you can trade, for example, if you want to buy illegal goods, right? And you trade with Bitcoin. you are still exchanging illegal goods in the physical world, and there's still a way for the police and the government to track you down. So I don't, I personally and most Bitcoiners are not trying to do illegal things with it. It just I want to hold this thing that the government cannot print. And for example, if Bitcoin, you know, appreciates and I want to sell it for US dollar, of course I'm happy. Actually, I I think I should pay a tax on that. I should pay a capital gains tax, because if gold appreciates and you sell that, you have to pay tax on that. And your stock goes up, you have to pay taxes on that. Um, but I'm not going to sell, I might take out a loan, I might just keep it forever, I might live in another country where Bitcoin is not taxed. But you know, the internet is used for criminal activity a lot. The US dollar is used for criminal activity. You know, I'm sure criminals are on the internet. Should we shut down the whole internet just for those people? And how much money laundering is done in US dollar every year? Insane amount. Amount we'll never know. At least every transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain is transparent. Crypto in the long term, yeah. So, um, you know, I'll stop share now. Right now, Bitcoin almost reached 100,000, and a lot of people are super excited. But I'm actually very calm. I think Bitcoin, I've been involved for a while. It plays a lot of mind tricks with you. When everybody thinks it's gonna crash, it's gonna go up, and when everybody thinks it's gonna go up, it might pause for a little bit. I don't know where it's gonna be tomorrow, right? I know in 4 years, in 10 years, imagine in 10 years ago, if you were involved in Bitcoin, you're like a criminal. Like, what are you even doing? But now, we have all these ETFs, and Bitcoin never changed. Is that the technology was introduced? Is the money is such a fundamental concept in people's world, in people's life, and it's very difficult to wrap their head around that you have this thing, there's a new system. So I'm not even excited about 100K. What am I going to do? I'm not going to do anything different when Bitcoin reaches 100K. I'm not going to sell them all. I will, and I have other investment. I'm not all in on Bitcoin. It is one very important technology, but by no means is the only technology in the world. But I do have a significant amount invested in Bitcoin, and I believe the long-term potential of it. I also believe in some other cryptocurrency. I might expand in some other videos. None of them are so-called like shitcoins. Like, I don't believe in anything competing with Bitcoin, but I think there are other cryptocurrency that have different use cases for different purpose. And they're not necessarily um, competing with each other. It's almost, saying most people still have such a shallow understanding of cryptocurrency. It's almost like saying, you know, Pepsi and Boeing are competing with each other because they're both stocks. Like, it doesn't even make sense, right? It's like Bitcoin and some other token, they're both cryptocurrency, but it doesn't mean they're in a competitive relationship. So, hopefully in this video, if I personally love talking to Bitcoin doubters or people who don't fully understand Bitcoin or still think Bitcoin is a scam, you are so super welcome to leave a comment. I would love you to invite to a conversation if you are open-minded and we can just freely discuss some of these topics. Because if you believe in Bitcoin, um, we can learn much from each other. But if you don't fully understand this talking about technology, you think it's a scam, but the price keeps going up, and you think there's something more to it. Hopefully, this video clarify some of your confusions. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.